On this episode of Star Trek Universe, through the miraculous 23rd century facial recognition technology of putting a picture next to an older picture and looking at it, we'll begin to uncover the truth of traveling Shakespearean actor Anton Karidian. Is he Kodos, the executioner of Tarsus 4? Yeah, he is. And we'll talk about it after these words from our Mystery Karidian players. Welcome into Star Trek Universe. On this episode, we continue our path through classic Trek. For me, it is a well-worn path, but for my companion, it is but a fresh, dewy meadow. I am David C. Roberson.
Dang it. Hi, I'm Effie. I haven't seen any of this. Where am I? What path am I on? How did I get here?
The path of enlightenment.
Indeed. That must be it. I do see a light at the end of the tunnel.
I didn't even say the title in that opening, but we're talking about the conscience of the king.
I figure it was clear from the spoiler in the prelude, so they'll figure it out. It's in the title. You have it on your screen.
Maybe they'll figure it out. The conscience of the king, memory alpha synopsis, an actor traveling aboard the Enterprise may be a former governor who ordered a mass murder 20 years earlier.
Spoilers, he is. Yeah. That part was very much clear from the beginning. I love that there was the absolute certainty necessary, but Spock was like, no, it's pure logic. There's no other explanation. This makes sense.
Yeah, but there's like a great question here, really, because, Kirk is like, he's dead. He's telling his buddy, Thomas Layton, dude, you got to get over this. It's not him.
Yeah, there's no way. Let's bury the past. Let's please forget about this. Yeah.
But then he kind of starts thinking like, well, let me look at some old tapes. Let me look at this.
What if? Yeah. It will gnaw at you.
Decides to go down to the party, and then Thomas Layton is murdered. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh shit, this might be more serious than I thought.
Yep.
But it's bad when Spock figures out what you're doing and then comes back to you and he's like, well, I don't know. I can't be sure. And Spock's like, no, he is.
Yeah, no, we're sure. Like, I don't know what degree of certitude you need, but this adds up. It's all pretty clear.
Yep. It's like, no, he is. But
have you looked at those two pictures side by side? He is.
Yeah. But the great question though is he really? Is he the same person? Because he's not the person killing everybody. It's his daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, but why would the daughter do that unless she was pretty damn sure he was the guy?
Well, clearly he was the guy.
Yeah.
But is 20 years long enough for a person to change that much? And, it was very clear, especially by the end, that he absolutely was, at a certain point, Kodos.
Yeah.
But, him, like, it's interesting because, like most people, when Kirk finally confronts him and says, are you Kodos? And he's like, well, if you believe that I am and you want me to be Kodos, I am. I'm an actor.
Yeah.
And he's kind of trying to skirt around the issue, but then, like, very clearly he starts, like, defending his actions.
Yeah, he's still standing behind what he did, yeah.
But he also regrets it deeply, obviously. Like, it haunts him.
He hated that it had to be done, but he's clearly still in favor of his solution, yeah.
But, there's that great line where Kirk says, who were you 20 years ago? And he just very tearfully and sadly says, younger, Captain, much younger.
Yeah.
It would seem to imply that his thinking on eugenics have changed quite a bit. So does he deserve...
Perhaps he's moved on at very least, but trying to still defend the choices does imply that he is ultimately okay with there had to be cullings, and he doesn't really delve into whether or not it was fair of him to decide which people were less valuable and why. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's not addressed to an extent where I could see him really regretting the choice necessarily. I think it weighs on him because, well, mass murder has to, if you're at all a decent human being, and most people who commit mass murder aren't. But he doesn't seem to be a sociopath in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's or a psychopath. There's a subtle difference. But I don't get the sense that he's much changed in the sense of what he thinks a great man should be, because he has that whole speech about the you're too mechanized and electric, whatever the fuck word he comes up with.
I think I did say
electronicized or some shit.
Yeah. He says, "I find your use of the word mercy strangely inappropriate, Captain. Here you stand, the perfect symbol of our technical society, mechanized, electronicized, and not very human. You've done away with humanity, the striving of man to achieve greatness through his own resources."
And I feel like that's such a deflection, because the context of the word mercy is like, you did it without mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm not sure what he is implying. Like, is the mercy the fact that other people got to live? Because, I don't know.
But they did die painlessly.
Yeah, fair enough. He did state that. But at the same time, how did Leighton lose half his face and eye to this way of painlessly killing people? Like, I'm not sure what happened there. It's not explained, but
no, it's not.
It does imply some form of violence that is, less painless.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely more to the story, and
there's more conflict than just the mass executions.
And I'm assuming Leighton resisted in some way, but it would seem that he and Kirk had to have been teenagers at the time.
Yeah, probably.
We're talking. They said 20 late years teens, ago. Yeah. These guys are in their 30s,
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. I love that this episode. This isn't one of my favorite episodes, but what I like several things about the episode. I like that they really do some universe building here.
Yeah.
I really like they delve into Kirk's past.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that they kind of just do, as these actors are performing Macbeth, they kind of just redo Macbeth. They're telling Macbeth in a way with characters who are playing
and they
Macbeth.
switch to Hamlet at the end, but yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So I enjoy all of that, and I thought there was for what they missed. I do wish I'd known more about Leighton and his injury, but they did it took great care, I feel like, with the question of what does Kirk need to do with this information, and I like that he's struggling with that. And
it says a lot about him that he wants to take the time to be absolutely certain, beyond just, you know those words, you don't have to read them. That's not quite enough for him. He really takes that confession of his daughter to be like, oh, she knows who he is, he knows who he is, we're done here. And even then, there is an interesting ending in terms of what justice apparently means to them, because, well, he already accidentally dies at her hand, but she is sort of set free in a she doesn't have to deal with the trauma she went through, so let's just leave her be and hope she doesn't kill anyone ever again.
Yeah,
for some reason.
She
knows her dad is still out there.
No, she's in no. They said she was in an institute.
Oh, okay. Right.
She totally cracked.
Yeah. No, she was not doing well. But it was sort of bittersweet in the sense of she thinks her dad is still out there performing plays all over the place, which is interesting. But I hadn't quite gathered if they had something to do with a memory, or if her memory was just fucked by means of let's repress this shit because it went poorly.
Yeah, what is that?
I don't want to deal with this. Yeah,
what is that called? A fugue state?
Probably. Yeah, something of the sort. Some form of dissociation where she does not recall shooting her own dad. Whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, which is it that like doesn't Macbeth's daughter kill him accidentally?
God. I couldn't give you a solid synopsis of these plays. I've had to deal with them at some point during my studies, and I have definitely also forgotten most of the stuff about them. I am not here as an English lit major. That is sadly my credentials are of no help in this area.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me as well, and I don't like. I'm not a huge Shakespeare guy. I'm not a Shakespeare guy.
No, I get that. I find it usually very, very
tedious,
lengthy and drawn out, and yeah. It's like you could have said this in a whole lot less words, and just a couple of lines would have sufficed.
Like
different times.
I've taken Shakespeare courses. I know enough to know that like. Or to remember that Shakespeare kind of wasn't the most original writer. He kind of just plagiarized other people's plays, but he also like added a lot of like complexity to it. Like he was just like, oh, okay, so there's this little farcical thing. I'm gonna add 2 more couples to it, and another. Like there's
yeah.
Let's
expound on this basic story. Yeah,
he was like Christopher Nolan for plays.
Fair enough.
So I'm gonna make this
throw this layer of like high tech concept over it. Yeah.
Like I'm gonna make this as convoluted as possible, and everyone's gonna call me a genius. And I'll give him this though. He knew his way around the word, man. He
absolutely.
He knew how to throw out a quip.
Yeah, and at the same time, it was lowbrow, relatively speaking. So it was, at the time, not this high art thing that we now make it out to be because everything sounds archaic. Like there's, he was in that sense also the dick joke maker of the time. So we have some commonalities there between our show and Shakespeare, and that really makes the intertextuality with this show even more intricate.
Yeah. Absolutely. So,
but I've never been able to keep track of the plot of Macbeth. Like Hamlet, fair enough, relatively straightforward. Macbeth, I always like with the witches, and like I'm just half the time I'm confused. I remember it vaguely. I've had to like sort of force myself through it, and it didn't stick.
Yeah. One of the things I like about this episode is that Kirk totally starts to try to like woo Lenore.
Yeah.
To like find out more about her father, and she's basically playing him the whole time.
Yeah, because she's killing people.
She's killing. She knows he's on the hit list. So
So it's a mutual thing in that regard. Yeah.
Here's one of my issues with the show, with the episode. Okay, so there are 9 people who have ever even seen Kodos.
Yeah.
He was a governor on a Federation colony. How is that possible? Also, they have a picture of Kodos in the system. Why would it matter if those people were dead? They still have a damn picture of them in the system.
Yeah.
They also have voice recordings that they can match up with his voice.
But I felt like that was a ruse almost, and then they did get the graphs. And I was like, okay, but we're still like, it was a weird thing, especially because it is like, oh, this comparison can't be made by a machine. I have to be certain that. Where it's like, come on, what's the use even?
Well,
like, why do this infallible test if you're still gonna doubt it? Like,
well, he said the voices weren't exact; they were very, very
perfect
close.
Match. Yeah,
but. To me,
but at the same time, that computer should account for aging. Like, come on.
It should account for aging.
Either is or it isn't a good test.
But I'm like, this dude was a government official. This guy was like,
Yeah.
They didn't have like DNA tests. They didn't have like DNA on hand. I understand this was in the 60s and DNA wasn't really a thing at the time. But
Yeah.
they were using fingerprints, right? Like, we knew about fingerprints already. They didn't have fingerprints on file. We saw that they had a picture.
A picture. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I feel like this plot doesn't hold up. No matter how much leniency you give it,
I get that.
with the time frame, like, that it was made, it still doesn't make sense that...
It implies a really shoddily run system of who gets to be governor on any given, like, colony.
And maybe that's what happened. Maybe he was just like a random ass dude, and then, things started going south and he wound up the governor. But
yeah.
I mean,
but we've seen, even with Mud, and like, we've seen the records that are being kept on everyone are pretty extensive.
Yeah.
And it should be a red fucking flag that there are no records of this old dude beyond 20 years ago, when he's apparently a public figure enough to the extent that there is data on him, and it just stops there. Like, that should be a dead giveaway in and of itself.
And Spock even says, like, there's no record of him almost to the day.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
Like, that means it took you 4 days to decide, I'm going to be an actor and this is going to be my name. Let's falsify some papers.
All of this could have been avoided with, like, one line where there were, like, people who knew Kodos, or, like, maybe some of the reasons people thought that Kodos actually survived was that all of the files on him was wiped or some shit.
Yeah, that could have worked.
Like, for as much...
If you didn't have the old photo. Because it doesn't add much to the plot. It's just him looking at the picture.
Yeah, have the photo.
Like, if you're delving into your own memory, that's fine.
Yeah. I think they should have had a line about how, like, all of his files were destroyed somehow or lost.
Yeah, there's just the historical record of, we know he killed a bunch of people, but we don't know anything about the person anymore. Mm-hmm. That would have been interesting. That would have worked. I get that.
But
yeah, as it stands... Oof.
A lot of the dialogue in this episode is really good, and I really like so much of, Kirk agonizing over what he should do, and I love that bit where McCoy is like, what if it is him? Do you play God, carry his head through the corridors in triumph? That won't bring back the dead. And Kirk says...
Such a good line.
Kirk says, no, but they may rest easier.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
Dark. Delightful. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Like, they go a bit overboard for me at the end, where it's just full on Shakespeare. Mm-hmm. Which it makes sense in the context, but also I'm not sure it applies to this context fully, where I'm just trying to follow along quickly enough to like grasp what is being said. And I don't know my Shakespeare well enough to really delve into that, but it at that point it is like, okay, are we still making sense, or are we just off our rockers already, like in her case? But that romance is also just interesting, because I am unsure why he would then even admit to, like, oh yeah, no, but I wanted it to be more later on. Like, you've just discovered she's killed a bunch of your friends. Like, maybe you don't need to still placate her feelings. Like, you could just say, no, it was all a ruse. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because you don't want anything at this point to do with her. Like,
yeah. I don't know. I do think that Kirk is, as presented, he's either ruthlessly and cold-bloodedly using his wiles, his masculine wiles, as it were, to get something. Or he's like Mr. Monogamy, like he's a serial monogamist, So like,
yeah, it seems to be that almost both, where it's like, yeah, he does, but he can't help himself from falling for her anyway. Which, yeah, I guess. And it was an interesting addition, her observation of like, oh, there is a kind-hearted softie in there, like you're human underneath all the veneer of the hierarchy and the being a captain and everything. Which is an interesting insight, but at the same time, yeah, you don't know fully how much of that is an act, even, because Kirk is in that situation trying to play her. So,
but I think the implication was there was, at some point, the more he suspected her father, the more he felt bad for her, because he was like, I'm gonna have to send your dad away. This is really shitty. And he knows that she's 19. She doesn't know who. I would assume in his mind he thought she doesn't know that.
Yeah. She was born after, and probably he never told her, because that's what I would do. But she figured that out apparently in the meantime, which is a nice redirect. But it does very much imply his conflict also rising from those romantic feelings of, well, I guess I'm gonna do something terrible to someone I care about, and that makes it harder. Because otherwise, like, if he truly didn't care about her, it wouldn't be as hard to just be like, your dad's gonna get locked up or worse, and just leave her with that.
I do.
The no harm done. The no harm done did feel like an odd bit of conversation where it's like, dude, if he weren't that guy, you should at least apologize when you drop them off. Like, it feels like we're skipping a couple of steps here, because this would be really fucked up if he isn't the guy.
Yeah. But I love that, where she was like, who are you to say what harm was done? And Kirk says, who do I have to be? Like, that was a great line.
Didn't feel like a great comeback, though. Like, it didn't make much of a point.
There's no point to be made, really, though.
No, exactly.
Like, it's a great line, but I think Kirk is seriously like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Like, at what point does anything become?
No, it felt like a powerless slapback. Like, it didn't actually. He's not actually making a point. He's just trying to have the last word and get the fuck out. Like, it felt sort of weak in that sense. Like, but not as a line, but as a character decision of, like, I need to say something, and it doesn't matter if it makes sense, because I disagree.
I think it makes sense. I think it's part of him questioning who he is and what he's supposed to be doing.
Right. Yeah.
I'm also like, he said it in such an indignant way. Like, I think he's pissed off that, because she's just told him there's a stain of cruelty on your shining armor. You are like the ship, powerful and not human. There's no mercy in you. And then Kirk's like, if he is Kodos, then I've shown him more mercy than he deserves. And I think there was, a lot of this came out, and this was written at a time when there was some conversation about how we as a nation in the United States should be treating Nazi war criminals who fled here and who purportedly regretted their actions because I feel like Kodos talking about, like, giving his justifications in a lot of ways sounds like I was following orders. Like
I had no choice. It is right. Like, the situation called for this, and let's ignore the fact that I picked superior people instead of just randomly Thanosing the population in half.
Mm-hmm. So I think there was like an idea there where it was like, yes, you could say the Nazi sympathizers are awful people, and they probably are to some degree, but there are still people in their lives who love them, who understand they had a terrible hand dealt, and they had to make decisions, some of them, that they didn't want to make. Yeah. But then again,
there's a difference between I was in Nazi Germany at the time and I was a war criminal. Like, it really depends where you fell on that hierarchy and what you did and didn't do.
But my question is, like, in that regime, if you're in any kind of position where you're following orders, or you're supposed to be, if you don't, what are they going to do to you?
No, it is a way of surviving. I get that, but let's not pretend that the whole "Ich habe es nicht gewusst" is a great excuse.
Oh no.
So I do get, like, is it cruelty to demand that they do not get to live another life anymore, even though they survive? Like, is it should you let them, or is it no, you should pay for your crimes? What does redemptive justice look like in that scenario? And are we just here to be punitive about it? And this is a very extreme case, of course, where it does land on you're an upper officer and you gave the order, so you're a dickbag.
Well, I mean,
but thankfully we don't have to deal with what needs to happen to him because he gets shot accidentally, and it's fine.
Right, which is annoying. Like,
it's kind of a letdown.
Yeah, kind of, but then like also tying into the Shakespeare thing.
Yeah, it was kind of tragedy. Beautiful. It makes sense. And,
you know, and by the way, I'm not at all like saying like Nazi war criminals shouldn't have been.
No, I know.
You know, I but that was a question of like if they were forced to do it, is it the same thing?
It is hard to really, on a case by case basis, go through those people's lives. Yeah.
And I think that's what they were going for here with him being like, I had this problem. I solved it this way. I didn't know how else to do it. And I didn't know that those people were coming.
And it is interesting in and of itself. Like, what did he base the value of people on? Like, how did he determine that? Because we do get Lieutenant Riley who says, okay, he murdered my parents.
Yeah.
But that also implies like, he was a kid, probably not very old. Why the hell did he live? Like, is that like what determined that he's good. He'll be a lieutenant later. Like, you don't know that. Yeah. He's a kid. We sort of skim over the whole eugenics bit of it.
If Kodos had seen The Naked Time and heard him singing, he would have taken him out too. That's the truth of it.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, that's valid. There's no future knowledge apparently in Kodos' mind, but it does remind me, like, if you want to make it a more complicated or a more interesting ethical dilemma, like, what if you were in that situation and you didn't know the ships came? Like, would you pose this as a solution to the parents and say your children get to live if you agree to be put down because we do not have the food supplies? I feel like that's an interesting story, and I'm just throwing that out there, irrelevant of the rest of the conversation. But it sounds like that would be heartbreaking in many, many ways. So I feel like there's something there.
Well, that
they didn't do.
I feel like that maybe Riley's family was spared, but they fought against it. Maybe that they Maybe they tried to stop the executions despite being of whatever race that was being spared. Yeah. Or equivalent division into groups. It's all make-believe, so, yeah. I mean, clearly there was some sort of uprising or something, but... Yeah,
because he did, like, have enough chaos to pretend that a burnt body was his, so there must have been something.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure people didn't go along with it willingly, but enough to where a lot of people were killed already. So who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a shame where the world building just doesn't quite expand into that territory where you could go, oh, what happened after the executions? Like, how did this go out and get out of hand? And what was the real scuffle?
Well, if you want to know, someone did write a book.
Of course. Lay it on me.
I don't even know where it was. I don't know that I even saved that. I saw it somewhere in my lookings, but I don't know if I saved it. I've mentioned it on the cast now, so I feel like I need to say. This is interesting podcasting.
Absolutely, we won't cut this out. No, why would you?
I probably won't.
No, I know.
Actually, it's at 33 minutes. I can probably pretty easily.
Yeah,
cut
33
this.
And 20. It's fine.
Where the hell did I read that? I don't even know where I read it now. I knew that. So yeah, you can read it. Kodos' slaughter and its aftermath as well as the pursuit of him and faking of his death, are depicted in the novel Drastic Measures by Dayton Ward. So, if anybody out there wants to know more about that, that's where you find that. But yeah, and I think it's super interesting though, like this idea that like Kirk gets consumed with this quest for vengeance, because they even said in the episode like he basically put his command in jeopardy.
Yeah.
He didn't tell his buddies, his other officers, no one else knew what was going on.
Yeah. He was lying his ass off.
Yeah, he got that other ship to go away and then acted like, well, I guess they left you guys. Like, I guess I gotta just to get Caridian on his ship so that he could confront him.
Yeah, and there was no reason not to include Spock in or the rest of the bridge in that, really, because you could have just explained it as, well, this guy called me to share his suspicions. By the way, we're not getting the solution to all famine forever.
Just on that planet.
Oh, right, sure. But like you could have just explained, like, and then he got killed, and also these suspicions are still there, and there's reasonable doubt at least to make sure this might not be a thing.
Well, though they didn't say it, I feel like he did not tell Spock or McCoy, because if he said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. This is all against regulation. I am not doing my job. I am going off on some like vengeance quest."
Right.
You guys want to join? And if they say yes, he's responsible for them going. So like the less they know,
that's fair,
the better.
Yeah,
They're just following their captain's orders. They have no idea what's happening. Unfortunately,
that's true. But like, it does feel weird that there is no way to do this according to regulations, where it's like, oh, by the way, suspected war criminal over here. Call it in, like put it in the log, and it's fine.
Well, because
the passengers thing.
Officially, he was dead. Officially, like everyone says, Kodos is dead. Dude, what are you doing? You're running out. You're chasing ghosts. What are you doing?
Well, I mean, even the computer confirms like the case is closed, but also the body was burnt beyond recognition, and we don't really know. So there's a slight difference there, but people assume, yeah.
Well, the Enterprise computer is written from people on Wikipedia. Basically, it's just
fair enough.
Every once in a while, a conspiracy theory just pops in.
That's good to know. Yeah.
By the way, do you recognize the computer voice at all?
I didn't, but I feel like I should know who that was.
It's Majel Barrett. She plays Nurse Chapel.
Right. Yeah.
Number one on the cage.
I am terrible at names, but yes, I remember that Nurse Chapel is the voice throughout everything. Yeah.
Yep. And she will be until the end of Enterprise in 2005.
Right. Yeah.
She may have even been the voice on the Kelvinverse movies until she passed away. So maybe the first two.
Lord knows.
Yeah. That was Gene Roddenberry's woman.
Which I'm sure is how we refer to her.
Well, they had like test audience screenings or whatever, and like when she was, and he like she was like the first character he wrote, and he was like, because they'd worked together on like the Lieutenant or whatever, and and he'd worked with Nimoy on that as well, and wanted to bring them both in. And test audiences were like, we don't like Spock because he looks satanic, and we don't like that woman. Who does she think she is? Apparently, even including the women.
Yeah.
Didn't like her.
No, exactly. Like the men weren't the issue for once. It's like, why her and not me? Yeah.
So like the joke Roddenberry began telling and told for years and years until he died was, the studio told me I could have one, so I decided to keep the Vulcan and marry the girl because I didn't think Leonard would have it any other way, or have it the other way around.
Fair enough. Oh well. Yeah. That makes sense.
I do kind of like the implication that he would have married Leonard Nimoy, but of course Nimoy didn't want it.
Yeah. Delightful. Ugh.
But yeah, so I don't know what else to say about this episode. Like, it's interesting to see Kirk have this trauma from his purportedly childhood, kind of push him to seriously endanger the thing he cares about the most, which is the ship, his captaincy. But he's like, nope. I watched a massacre happen.
Sure. Yeah.
I watched a massacre happen. I got to take this guy out. I want to know why he was an eyewitness, though, so badly. Like, I want to know how he was there.
Why did he end up in the throne room? Like, why did he get so close to actually have laid eyes on him when he was apparently this secretive fucking person? I don't know what room they used for a governor on, what was it, Tharsis 4? Some shit.
I love that. That's a great name for a planet.
Oh yeah, it sounds good.
Tarsus 4. Oh.
Only 9 people out of 4,000. That's
yeah.
Still interesting. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm sure Dayton Ward did a great job with that book. I'm sure he did.
Let's hope so. We'll assume.
Dude, that is what these writers do. Like these novel writers, they will take something like that and they're like, what are all the questions that I was annoyed by in that episode of Star Trek?
Fix this.
We will fix this now.
It's a bunch of fanfic. Lovely. Yeah.
That is what it is. That is.
Yeah, of course.
So much.
Basically how it works.
Funniest line of the episode to me was McCoy. In the long history of medicine, no doctor has ever caught the first few minutes of a play.
Yeah, that was good. It's not untrue.
Yeah. As we mentioned last episode, Grace Lee Whitney walked on, had a quick walk-on appearance, sternly looked at Lenore as she was walking off the turbo lift, and that
went nowhere, so I instantly forgot. Yeah,
that was her first. I mean, that's her last filmed appearance as Janice Rand until the motion picture.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to see her. We'll get to see her briefly again.
Okay, we'll see. Yeah, no, like. How do we headcanon this? Is she just like got mad there is another girl and now she resigns, gets on another ship?
You know what? My headcanon is this episode takes place before either takes place before or shortly after the Miri incident. And with her telling Captain Kirk she was always trying to get him to look at her legs, they both decided it was
fair enough.
It was better if she ships off, if she ships off to another ship. That's what I headcanon.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I could mention that the city in the background out of Tom Layton's window is the same exact picture they used as Mojave in The Cage.
Yeah. I did recognize it from somewhere, but I didn't mind.
Yeah. We can talk about that. Oh, here's a thing that you won't know what I'm talking about. But
oh, lovely. Those are the best ones.
On the series Star Trek Enterprise, there's one of the main characters' names is Hoshi Sato. They did an episode called In a Mirror Darkly, and Mike Sussman wrote a future biographical blurb about Hoshi Sato. Mm-hmm. And it was sort of they found a ship from the TOS timeline, which is like 100 years in their future, and and he wrote how the main character died, and she was one of the 4,000 people killed by Kodos on the Tarsus colony.
Ah, delightful!
And it never showed up on screen, and I wish it had, because that would have been like freaking chef's kiss.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, like that's your fucking fate. That's a deep cut. I love that. That is good.
Here's a character you love, but life is so freaking meaningless, and people die in such shitty ways.
Yeah, out of pure randomness. Like, she'll survive the show, but know that in a couple of years, some dude will decide he's gonna call whatever, and she's not one of the most valuable members of society. Yeah,
like, look, to be fair, she'll live to be well over 100.
Yeah, that's solid. But you might get tired of it at that age. Maybe he just killed all of the old people. Maybe there were just a bunch of senior citizens.
Yeah, maybe. That's
just 4,000 of them.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not canon. But, it's a fun thing that a writer wrote that in somewhere and intended it to be a thing floating around. But you know what? The way you said that, like, maybe that's long enough to get tired of it. Like,
yeah.
Like, I hear Kodos's, or Caridian's statement, where he's like, what was it? Blood thins, the body fails. One is finally grateful for a failing memory.
Right. I figured he was referring to himself there, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was grateful for the, not
having to vividly, relive his past mistakes, yeah.
Yeah. Some really good stuff and some really weird backstory here, but...
Absolutely, yeah.
Really, my only real big problem is, just like with Miri, the most interesting thing about the episode, they glaze over.
Yeah.
They gloss over the most interesting thing.
The biggest chunks of the episode are usually like, we need to progress the plot, and we're just in the now instead of delving into all of the shit around it, which interests us as nerds. Yeah. And
the thing with, like, I feel like there should have been a line explaining why Kodos doesn't have anything on record. It says he was a government official.
Yeah, it's an interestingly run government, and like, because it does imply like the eyewitnesses are like from the survivors that happen to be on that planet, but like, who installed him as governor? Like, someone on the planet? Like, there's no off-world interference apparently, even though they're supposedly a colony, right? Like, who is there? No oversight? Is governor just, I am the planetary ruler now?
Well, one of the things I like about what they do, and it's a little different later on, but it's still kind of the same, and it's realistic in that way. Whereas, like, yes, there are all these colonies, Federation colonies and shit, but space is like a deep, dark, lonely place with lots of room in between. They are not going to have someone available to them at all times. So, like, sometimes shit goes down on these little colonies and stuff happens they can't do anything about. Like,
yeah, and it just comes in on a fax in the office and they're like, oh, God, well, this colony had another fucking mass murder.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like a few episodes ago when Kirk's like, I got to make the big decision, and then asks Starfleet Command or whatever the hell it's called at this point.
Yeah. You're fine.
and then like after he's already done it, they're like, okay, well, we got the go ahead from Starfleet. You could do it.
Yeah.
Like,
they agree.
Okay.
They stand behind you, whatever the fuck you decide to do. Yeah. Like, we're not that hands on. We hope we trained you well.
Most of the time, I feel like Star Trek does the same thing that MASH did really well. Is one of the reasons I love them is because they always make fun of the bureaucracy. They always make fun of the fact, like, you are a guy behind a desk thousands of miles away from here, light years away from here. You don't know what the shit we're going through, and I have to report to you, and then you get to tell me yes or no.
Yeah, like, come on, you barely grasp the situation. Yeah. No, that's absolutely fair, because the distances are hard to comprehend. Like, there's no instant video feed to pull up and be like, oh, how you doing? What should I do? So that's wise. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in that way, like, I feel like there should have been something more on him somewhere. Like, but at the same time, I'm fine with the idea that, like, they were having trouble getting supplies to these people.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, like, in the middle of nowhere.
Apparently, yeah.
On damn space.
Oh, lots of darkness and loneliness, and yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those, like, for a show that is heralded as one of the most, optimistic pieces of science fiction, because unlike pretty much almost every other piece of science fiction, it's a utopia.
Yeah, it's not apocalyptic for once.
We survived. We got through it. We are better than we are now. but still, like, you know, these people are like in the middle of nowhere. They're lonely. Kirk was lonely. That's part of this whole thing with Lenore, I think. They emphasized it thematically with Riley down alone in engineering and reaching out on the comm and trying to like let me know I'm not the only person alive in the universe. And you know, if he had not done that, he would be dead. You know, thank God for the plastic companies, because Star Trek is there telling us that in 300 years, the most efficient device you could use is still a spray bottle.
Clearly, yeah.
This miraculous device will not be perfected in 300 years.
Yeah. Can't improve on a design so good.
$1.28 at your local Walmart.
Perfection.
Just spray the poison directly into the milk.
As you do.
Yeah. A lot of great stuff in this episode, and some weird stuff that kind of undermines it a lot.
We'll ignore that.
Not like a ton.
Eventually.
Not like a ton. But exactly. I'm thankful for this episode, though, because it was one of Ronald D. Moore's favorite episodes. Apparently, he said it was his favorite episode. Ronald D. Moore's the guy that did the Battlestar Galactica reboot.
Oh, right, yeah.
But he started his career on Star Trek: The Next Generation and was heavily featured on Deep Space Nine. And cool. He said, I like the backstory of Kirk as a young man caught up in a revolution and the nightmarish slaughter by Governor Kodos. I liked the Shakespearean overtones of this episode as well as the use of the plays themselves. And I absolutely loved Kirk in this episode, a troubled man haunted by the shadows of the past, a man willing to lure Caridian to his ship under false pretenses, willing to do one of his more cold-blooded seductions on Lenore, willing to fight with his two closest friends and risk his entire command in the name of justice. Or was it vengeance? Kirk's aware of his own lack of objectivity, his own flaws to be in this hunt for a killer, but he cannot push the burden away and refuses to pull back from his quest to track down Kodos no matter what the cost. It also has some of my favorite lines in TOS. Like, this is a dude that, like, he put all of this kind of shit into Deep Space Nine.
Good.
Like, Deep Space Nine with Ronald D. Moore is just like, holy shit. This is like, everything Kirk's doing here is just like, yes, funneled with like 1,000% more.
Yeah. Let's up the ante on that.
He said,
that's fun.
He said the brooding tone and the morally ambiguous nature of the drama fascinated me and definitely influenced my thinking as to what Trek could and should be all about. So, if you're a newcomer to the show, DS9 is my favorite series of the franchise. So, yeah.
And it all stems from this? Yeah. There's influence there. Cool.
I'm marginally sorry that when I have to bore you with stuff like that, but I'm like,
it's
for
fine.
The audience, I'm like, this
cool stuff. Look, and I get the context, so you know, I learn a thing or two for the moment.
Yeah,
and
hopefully,
eventually, we'll end up there.
Yeah, hopefully, I can just kind of stoke the fires, like fuel it a little bit. Like, keep going, Effie. It's gonna get great. It's gonna get great, Effie.
That's what I'm here for. Just to keep going and get to the great. Yeah. Oh.
How do you feel though? Like, do you feel like it's been?
Oh yeah, no, I enjoyed these.
Pretty
like,
good?
if yeah, I was pretty high on this one as well. Like, yeah, it's good stuff. It's happening. Yeah, I'm still enjoying myself. Absolutely.
Good. I'm glad. I would have hated if I don't know.
Yeah, if by now I'd be like, oh god, what did I sign up for another 80 episodes? Fuck me. No, it's not that.
Yeah.
I'm having fun.
Yeah.
And I really like the actor as well who played Caridian. Just to have a bit of that Shakespearean drama in there. They did a good job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some nice addition of some gravitas. Yeah.
Yep. I'm not crazy about Lenore. I didn't like the actress.
No, fair. I did. She didn't do a lot for me. No, it was just, well, we got a blonde, and then she got interesting past the twist, I guess, where it was like her confessing to her father that she had been taking out the people who could still identify him. Like that was like, oh, there's something there. But up to that point, I was just like, yeah, you're here, and I'm not sure why we're still spending time on this, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. They were going for something.
Sure. They always are.
Like, I've silenced the ghosts. My child, you've left me with nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is elevated in that sense. It is, it's a specific taste of dramatic acting, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you understand. See, they're Shakespearean actors. So.
Oh, I hadn't noticed. That's good of you to. Oh, there might be some intertextuality. Like she was quoting something about the consciousness of the king. Yeah. Oh, and that's the title. Oh, I'm putting it all together now. The puzzle pieces are really falling into place.
I'm glad I could help.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what you're here for.
All right, let's call it, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, Effie.
I did.
And if you'd like to write in, StarTrekUcast@gmail.com. We're also on all the social media platforms. We're around, even if we're not posting, because God help me, I can't remember to post. Especially not in all the places. Like, I will post on, like, Twitter or something. I will, like, sometimes remember to post in one place. And then I'm just like, I'm spent. And
this has been my job for the day. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah. So, yeah. But you guys could still write in and be like, hey, what up? I listened to this review. I dug it. And why did you guys have to talk about Effie's dick and formaldehyde? And, I think
that was last episode, but sure.
Probably. But, well, yeah. Well, this is the next episode, and that will have been long enough for people to say that.
Right. Now it's a reference point in the show's runtime. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. And in our own expanding back history of the universe.
Exactly. We got to have some running gags. Yeah.
Right. So, Joe Lontrue. I'm sleepy. I'm sorry. I'm falling apart.
It's okay. Yeah.
Joe Lontrue, live long and prosper.
And eat a dick.
That's right.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Roberson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.